In 334 BC, Alexander, 21-year-old leader of the little Greek realm of Macedonia, drove an attack of the huge Persian domain. It appeared to be unthinkable chances, yet on account of Greek military strength and Alexander's bold administration, he won two extraordinary fights against the Persians, at the waterway Granicus and at Issus. Having curbed Persian grounds west of the Euphrates waterway, he currently traveled east into the realm's heartlands, looking for a last standoff with the Persian ruler, Darius. 3. Getting news that an extraordinary Persian armed force, drove by Darius, had gathered at Gaigemala, close to present-day Mosul in Iraq. He made straight for it. This was Darius's last opportunity to stop Alexander, and Alexander's opportunity to crush Persian power unequivocally. Darius had decided to battle on open ground, where his benefit in numbers would more tell. His fighters had additionally endeavored to clear and level the territory, to make it appropriate for Persian conflict chariots. By current gauges, the Persian armed force was somewhere in the range of 50 and 80,000 in number, and comprised of contingents from across the realm, infantry from Syria and Babylonia, mounted force from Armenia, India, and Focal Asia, up to 200 sized chariots. Indeed, even a modest bunch of war elephants. Alexander's military was more modest, and may have been dwarfed by as much as 2 to 1. He sent his units in their typical development. On the left flank, Thracian and Thessalian rangers, directed by Parmenion. In the middle, the Macedonian veterans of the phalanx, each furnished with their 18-foot sarissa pike. On the right flank, Alexander with his world-class rangers, the sidekicks, and his best infantry, the hypaspists. These were the units with which Alexander intended to send off his fundamental assault. Greek hoplites shaped a subsequent line and upheld the two wings, which were calculated back to prepare for encompassing by the Persians. The fight started when Alexander drove his wing out to one side, a move that shocked the Persians. Might Alexander at some point truly be attempting to enclose their gigantic armed force? The Persians reflected his development, removing troops from their middle to outmaneuver Alexander and forestall him leaving the region they'd cleared for the Persian chariots. However, Alexander's uncommon move was a snare to captivate the Persians to debilitate their middle. At the point when he saw that it had worked, he requested his Greek mounted force to charge, to keep the Persians fixed ready. A Goliath cavalry fight created on the conservative. Darius, in the interim, judging this to be the conclusive second, released his chariots. Be that as it may, Master Arrian's spear hurlers took out ponies and teams, while the Greek infantry opened paths, permitting the chariots to go innocuously through. Presently Alexander drove his sidekick cavalry and portions of the Macedonian phalanx in a head-first charge directly at the debilitated Persian place, battling his direction towards Darius himself. The abrupt savagery of Alexander's attack tossed the Persians into alarm. The focal point of the military broke and ran, ruler Darius himself driving the defeat. Yet, Alexander's left wing was in hot water. Parmenion, confronting a colossal surge by Persian rangers, was essentially encircled. Indian and Scythian horsemen had even ridden through a hole in the Greek line. Yet rather than haggling the Greeks from behind, they conveyed straight on to steal from their camp. Parmenion sent a frantic enticement for Alexander for help. The Lord deserted his quest for Darius, pulled together, and charged the Persian conservative. It was the hardest and bloodiest taking on of the conflict, killing 60 of Alexander's partners. At last, as insight about Darius's flight spread across the combat zone, the last Persian horseman turned and escaped. The clash of Gaugamela was a dazzling and complete triumph for Alexander. As per old sources, he lost only 200 or 300 men, while the Persians lost thousands. Alexander had steered Darius's extraordinary armed force, and presently the way to Babylon, the domain's fundamental capital, exposed. The Macedonian lord entered the extraordinary city in wind, perceived by Persian authorities as its new legitimate ruler. So too at the city of Susa, where Alexander formally sat down upon the regal high position of Persia. In the Zagros Mountains, at a pass known as the Persian entryways, a valiant Persian power held up Alexander's military for a month. The Greeks ultimately tracked down a mountain way that skirted their situation, permitting them to enclose and clear out the protectors. In mid-330 BC, Alexander arrived at Persepolis, the domain's stylized capital. Alexander needed to show up as an emancipator to the Persians, as a genuine replacement to ruler Darius. Yet presently, he requested Persepolis to be looted and consumed, retaliation for the Persian attack of Greece, and the consuming of Athens' holy sanctuaries in 480 BC. Alexander currently traveled north into Media, where Darius had taken shelter in the imperial city of Ecbatana, not entirely set in stone to catch Darius. However, the outlaw lord escaped east in the desire for bringing another military up in the regions of Parthia, Bactria, and Sogdia. It was not to be. As Alexander shut in, the Persian lord was killed by one of his own lead representatives, Bessus, who then broadcasted himself the realm's new ruler. Alexander provided orders for Darius to be covered in the regal burial places of Persepolis, close by his progenitors. Then he stopped to sort out his tremendous new domain. Alexander named emissaries to run the regions for his benefit, keeping a few Persians, who had sworn dedication, in their posts. He likewise permitted Greek soldiers, who wished, to get back. Then he continued his walk east. His objective, to find and kill the usurper Bessus, oppress the domain's eastern regions. What's more, arrive at the most distant edge of the world. Exploration and craftsmanship for this video comes from Osprey Distributing's broad scope of books on antiquated history. Each Osprey book looks at a specific fight, mission, or battle unit in definitive, careful detail. Also, with an excess of 3,000 titles, they cover everything from old fighting to current clash. Visit their site to see their internet-based index. Much thanks to you to all the Patreon allies who made this video conceivable, and to the channel Invicta. Figure out more about Alexander's unimaginable story in their Crossroads Ever series.